I'm pleased to welcome Charles Murray, the writer-director of The Devil You Know, which is out right now in theaters. Charles, thanks for joining me today. How you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing great.
Excellent. The Devil You Know is surprising on a few different levels. And I'd like to start with the thing that struck me right off the bat, which is I know that you've made a career out of writing and producing very eclectic television series like Daybreak, Sons of Anarchy, Luke Cage, a couple of Star Wars animated shows. Yet The Devil You Know is about the furthest thing away from those heightened reality sort of fantasy stories. Did you decide to tell this story as a way of kind of putting some distance between yourself and, for lack of a better term, your day job?
No, I think, if you take a look at the other indies that I've made, Things Never Said, Truth, and this one, they've all been about the ground floor, which is just like character and emotion. Um, but when I do genre stuff, I don't look at it honestly as any different from. It's not any different from because you tell a story is a story, and you're telling a story about the characters. I use the example that I wrote Ahsoka's exit of the Jedi Council. I mean, not the Jedi Council, but the Jedi itself. And it's just, she had to go through the same emotions to make that break as Omar Epps' character makes in deciding to make the decision he makes in this movie. So I kind of just look at the story as the body and the genre as the clothing.
Well, speaking of genre, I want to pull over for a second. I saw Jeff Loeb's name in the opening credits.
Yes, you
And
did.
as a comic book guy, I'm like, wait, that's not Jeff Loeb. But it turns out it was Jeff Loeb.
That is
Was,
Jeff Loeb.
was that sort of a nod to your kind of work in, the comics, genre, the TV genre, or did you think, Jeff, you'd be perfect for this, couple of minutes of screen time, and he really was?
It was both. I started working for him on Luke Cage, and very quickly we quickly developed an acquaintanceship that became a friendship. If you really want to be jealous, he and I went to see Batman together. So,
What was that like? Just real quick.
it was interesting because he has this mode that he can go into where you can't tell what he's thinking. And when you're pitching him a story, or when you're discussing like a cut or something like that, or you're watching the cut, he just kind of, and you're like, oh, what's going on over there? But he liked it. He liked it a lot. It was interesting to get his take on it, because both Dark Knight and this come from the Long Halloween, or have, springboard from the Long Halloween. So we did more talking about that than the movie itself, but he gave it a thumbs up, and I posted it on my Instagram, and most people were like, okay, so you went to see Batman. And my comic book heads were like, you went to Batman. So it was awesome. But it was the commingling of both things, like you said. I had told him that I was going to make this movie, and he jokingly said, oh, I'd be good in the movie. And I was like, oh, you know what, actually he might be. And I went to him at first with the role that Michael Beach has. And he was like, can the thing that happens with that other character, I want to do that. And I was like, all right, great. And we got there, and it was awesome because BJ Britt was there, and he was a part of BJ getting on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. when it first came on.
Okay.
So they had a reunion, and it was good. Of course he wants more money for the next thing I do with him. And so I may have to sit him down for my next movie, but he's been clamoring. But going back to your initial question, I never see any of it differently. It's like a house is a house is a house. The block is different. How you decorate it is different, but it's still a house. So I kind of look at everything that I do is about character.
Well, so the movie is it's at its core, it's about the dynamic between two brothers, and they run into some trouble, with the law, and that there's a cop pursuing them. But what I loved about the film, one of the many things, is that you spend a great deal of time exploring the wider family dynamic, good and bad. How much of that did you pull from your own brothers, that you dedicated the film to?
I pulled a lot of it. I'm from Gary, Indiana.
Yeah.
And it was my wish to shoot the film back then. When we weren't able to make it happen, shoot it in Gary and parts of Chicago. So a lot of that movie is very much the neighborhood, the east side of Gary, Indiana that I grew up in. My father and my mother were both in the steel mill, so they had good incomes. We had a great house. I went to great schools. And when you think about the larger narrative that the rest of the world understands about something, or think that they understand about something, or the rest of the country, I should say, versus your day-to-day existence, I want to tell a story that says, bump the narrative that you believe, because this is kind of how it really goes on. It's like, if you think about Chicago, people talk about it's Capone and Daley and the machine. But the people that I know from Chicago, we don't talk about Daley. We don't talk about Cabrini Green. We don't talk about the machine. We talk about human stuff, what's going on with us. So I wanted to bring that to this particular type of story. This is very much my homage to Sidney Lumet's style of filmmaking, where here's the story, now we're going to get under it. Paul Newman is an ambulance chaser, and this is the dilemma he's going to have in the verdict, but it's really going to be about, can he rise to the occasion? That's kind of how I looked at it as I was putting it together.
Well, that actually keys right into my next question, which is, there are a number of movies ostensibly about this, the troubled relationship, the criminal brother, the good brother, whatever, the cops. But it felt to me watching the movie that you had watched 100 of these things and thought, I want to make a movie and put my stamp on it. I'm going to sidestep every one of these cliches and come up with something that is original and true and heartfelt. Is that the case? Was that a deliberate choice? Is it just how you think about this particular story?
I would never say that I sidestepped any of those movies, because all of them are great,
Well, just in terms of not showing the same thing that people may have seen.
No, but I hear you. So how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'll be 45 in June.
Okay, so I'm 56.
Okay.
WGN is responsible for this movie.
WGN, all right.
Because WGN on Sundays used to have Fraser Thomas's Family Classics.
I used to watch those with my dad, yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then at night, when your family probably put you to bed, your dad would go and watch Channel 9 and watch the gangster movies. And he would watch Cagney movies, Bogey movies, George Raft, all that other kind of stuff. There's a lost art to that type of filmmaking, because if you watch Public Enemy starts off with James Cagney's character as a kid, and he and his buddy pull a rope to make a girl fall while she's skating. And then when he gets older and becomes a gangster, he's not just squared up shooting. He spends time with his mother. He's got this ongoing thing with his brother who wants him to just go straight and stop dealing with these people. And then you'd get the rat-tat-tat-tat. And then you go back to, oh, there's this club waitress who has a crush on him, and she pushes up on him too hard, and he rejects her. So those movies, what they were putting in my brain was, if you want to tell this story, what's the difference about this particular character? Not this particular plot. Mm. And so those kind of movies, man, I can't tell you how many times I watched Boys Town with Spencer Tracy and Mickey Rooney. And there's this scene in the movie. Spencer Tracy plays Father Flanagan, and they take it, and he runs this orphanage. And there's a scene where this kid's dad is like giving the kid gruff. And Spencer Tracy says, "You should stop doing that." And he goes, "What are you going to tell me, father?" And he reaches up and he pulls his collar off. And he's like ready for violence. And I'm like, that's not your regular priest, you know? So those movies educated me on always trying to turn something just a little bit from the 99 others, while respecting the 99 others, because they're the ones that made me understand what I needed to turn.
Excellent. Now, there's a great scene towards the end of the movie between Michael Ealy playing the detective and Omar Epps playing Marcus, who's under suspicion of this crime. And it reminded me, it's like a new version of that great Pacino De Niro scene in Heat. You know, you've got these two big, powerful people sitting across from each other, kind of figuring things out, but not really wanting to tip their hands. Is that something you were conscious of, like building this great moment? When you finished making that scene, did you think, I've done something fantastic here?
No, man, I haven't gotten to, I've done something fantastic. I think I'll get in trouble if I do that. It was, I felt like the one thing I needed to do with that scene was stay true to the interrogation scenes. And that's why I made sure that there weren't any pictures on the wall. That's why I sat them across from each other. You know, he has a coffee cup when he's talking to the guys he brings into interrogation. And what I wanted to do, because I think the beauty of the Heat scene, and I love Michael Mann. I love Thief a little bit more than I love Heat. And the tone of Thief probably exists in this a little bit more, minus Tangerine Dream's music. But what I wanted to get across in that scene is, when you go back and think about it, and he being Ealy, when you go back and think about it, and he tells the story about the cigarettes, and then he makes the confession about the coffee, he's manipulating this whole time. And even when he lets share, it's different from the sharing in Heat, because in Heat, it's like, I'm a guy, you're a guy, we're two guys, and if we run into each other, I'm gonna be the guy I'm gonna be, you're gonna be the guy you're gonna be. That isn't in Joe's mind at all. Joe's mind is, I need answers, and I'm gonna be inappropriate and show up And if that doesn't throw you, I'm going to tell you a story that you can sympathize with, but I don't give a damn. I want that answer. So that kind of puts me more in the mind of there's a scene in The Verdict when they hand Paul Newman a check for $270,000. And it's the judge and it's the other lawyer, the opposing lawyer. And they're like going, hey, come on, dude, it's not gonna get any better than this. And he says, one of my favorite lines that Mamet wrote, $270,000. That divides into 3 ways very evenly. And he makes the decision to fight the case. That scene to me is about the decision that Marcus makes to do the thing after.
Wow. Well, I'm up against the clock here. I really appreciate you educating me on all the layers of the film that I didn't even know were there. So thank you very much, Charles Murray.
Thank you for having me.
All right, man. Take care. Congratulations. Good luck with the film. Everybody check out The Devil You Know in theaters now. And
AMC exclusively.
Oh, okay. I wasn't aware of that. All right. AMC exclusive. Go there. All right.
Yeah.
Take care, sir.
Thank you. It's good talking to somebody from back home.
All right, man. Take it easy.
You too.
Bye.